Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Jakarta Tech Talk. My name is Serena, and joining us today is Otavio Santana, who will be presenting on the topic of Eclipse JNoSQL 1.1.6, embracing Jakarta NoSQL 1.0, and graph database standards. If you have any questions for Otavio as we move through today's presentation, please use the Ask a Questions tab or in the chat. And without any further delay, Otavio, over to you.
Okay, thank you everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night. I don't know what time you are watching this right now, but I can tell you that I'm super happy to announce the new release of Eclipse JNoSQL, where we're going to discuss more about what is going on with this version, especially on the future of the polyglot persistence inside Java Enterprise. Okay, first, my goal is first go to overview about what is Jakarta NoSQL, the components that we have, the integration with another specifications. Then we go into the code to writing some codes. Uh, in this version, I will cover more around the graph database, especially because this one is the new standards that we define on Eclipse NoSQL. Basically, right now we have in the market we have two ways to communicate with Graph. One is Apache TinkerPop. The second one is OpenCypher from Neo4j. And with this version, you are capable to use both. So you can use TinkerPop or you can use Cypher. It is up to you. Okay. So first, let me do a little introduction about what is Jakarta NoSQL, and then let's do some code. So every time that I discuss about Jakarta NoSQL, the first question is what's the goal and why should I care about NoSQL database anyway? The first point is it's become more popular. We can see a lot of even finance areas starting using NoSQL database in different areas. So, for example, uh, to finance, to hold the card status, card transactions, e-commerce are using that a lot, especially when it is a global market e-commerce like Amazon itself and so on. So Jakarta NoSQL comes more to become popular because we have more solutions speaking NoSQL database. It does mean that the relational database become deprecated. Relational database is still a super valid persistence that we as developers can use and can explore as much as we wish. But we right now have in the market this new, I don't dare to say new, but it's new flavor of persistence or database engine. So in the past, only relational database. Right now we have at least three categories: SQL, NoSQL, and NewSQL. NewSQL is the hybrid solution, explaining briefly. So when we have both of those words, SQL and NoSQL, in a single solution. For example, when Postgres decide to have some flexible schema using JSON and so on. Talking about the difference between SQL and NoSQL, I will go quickly here because that's not the goal. We have we don't have standards like we have in SQL, and we have the types or categories defined by the way that we put on the database. Those four are the most popular solutions on NoSQL database. Okay, so white column or column family, graph, document, and key value. Key value, if you are a Java developer, is super similar to a map where you have the key and then return only to the value. So document looks like a JSON structure, and white column It has a pretty similar structure that a key value does, but instead of have a single value like we do have here in key value, right? So I have a key and then a single value. On one column, I have a key and I can put my information in tiny piece that we call column. And finally, the one that we're gonna cover today is the graph database. So graph is the one that can provide for us a deeper relationship, even deeper than a relation database. Why? Because with graph, we have directions of relationship, we have properties on this relationship, and so on. So graph database is the one that for some reason we have some enterprise solutions where every time that we modeling your code, you have directions or I need to do a relationship with properties or directions. So graph is the one that you can take a look. Or when your relational database contains a lot of many to many um, modeling. So those might be a good indicator to you. Go check out and understand more about graph database. Okay, so I explained to you a little bit of NoSQL database, and then I already said we don't have standard and NoSQL database, and that's the real and the biggest motivation behind the specification, the implementation, and so on. Because, for example, here, I'll explain to you, we have several NoSQL database types. Those, the four that I mentioned, are the most popular ones, right? And here we have a single NoSQL category. So we have AroundDB, MongoDB, Couchbase, and OrientDB. And those four are the same category that document. Those are doing the same thing, that is including a document information, but with different classes, different method, different everything, but the behavior holds the same. So the biggest motivation here is, instead of a go to memorize every single command, what I can do instead is just using a single API. So here I have the same idea of four different NoSQL database, this time a key value type, where I have a key, I have a value, but Redis has the classes, has the way, React another way, InfiniSpan another way, and Oracle NoSQL has another way. So I want the same behavior, I want to achieve the same goal, but every NoSQL database contains a unique class, a unique method, and so on, package name, and so on. So the motivation behind Eclipse JNoSQL and the specification itself is to simplify this process using a single API. For in the previous problem, I explaining those four. So what I want to achieve, the same thing. So instead of having or need to memorize for, let's use a single API and then implement it, uh, or have adapter on four different ways. This way, I as Java developer don't need to memorize those kind of things. So I just need to know one single API, like exactly like we have in SQL, and then let the driver do the job. Okay. So right now, Eclipse NoSQL handles those common API, the most popular ones, so column, family, graph, document, and key value. And we combine with Jakarta NoSQL, each right now it is on the version 1.0. So what we release in this version, basically annotations where it is compatible with records and classes, and the template interface that I'm going to talk later. So as you can see, the nomenclature that you do have in Jakarta persistence or former JPA you can use here. What's gonna change is the package name. So it's gonna be Jakarta NoSQL instead of Jakarta persistence. Everything else looks the same. So we have our template interface that was released at the version 1.0. Okay, right now I have my Pokemon empty with my annotations. Here, as you can see, this one is a record where I have my ID annotation and name and location as the annotations. And as you can see, with this inject by CDI, I can insert my Pokemon on at least three different NoSQL database. So I can use ArongDB, I can use MongoDB, I can use Couchbase, and you have no idea each one I'm using right now. Exactly like we do have with Entity Manager on JPA or Jakarta Persistency. Okay. One different thing that I were already explaining for you is Jakarta NoSQL is a a standard for NoSQL database, and NoSQL database does not provide a single standard. Furthermore, it allows us to have particular behavior from each NoSQL database. And the specification allows to be extensible. So, for example, by default, we have the template interface on NoSQL, and it will be this one can be extended by the Jakarta NoSQL provider. For example, in Eclipse JNoSQL, we have the document templates, and then we have a provider template. Why? Because only ArongDB will support Arong query language, right? So Couchbase also provides a coin query language and so on. So MongoDB also provides some particular behaviors and so on. So my point here is NoSQL database brings several particular behaviors, and that's huge matter for us. Okay. So Jakarta data I won't cover today, but with Eclipse NoSQL you can have both Jakarta NoSQL or Jakarta NoSQL and Jakarta data in a single framework. So you can combine. Naturally, today I will go more to the API of Jakarta NoSQL. But anyway, it's important to know that yes, you can use both with Eclipse NoSQL. So as a developer, most of the time we are handling with the NoSQL API and data API. And the engine will read this mapping annotations and then communicate to the driver. And one good thing about this engine is at the end, we are using official drivers from the NoSQL provider. What we put was just an adapter to those drivers. So I remember doing a couple meetings with the NoSQL providers like Oracle, for example, Oracle NoSQL, and then they said, "No, Otavio, I cannot implement a new driver like I did with Spring." And then I said, "No, no, no, you don't need to have a new driver. You just need to have an adapter, and that is it." So uh, we have for users those specifications. The engine will read and then communicate as an adapter. And finally, we have those specification as infrastructure inside the specification. So to process JSON, we have the JSON bean that we are using right now, CDI to the injections, and the configurations from Eclipse Micro Profile to set up the configuration. Okay, so we are not using a different way than the what we have in Eclipse Micro Profile. Said that, the next step right now is to show some code, right? My goal of today is to explain more around the graph database. So as already explained to you, we have the graph database that allow us to go deep on relationship, especially because with graph you can have properties, we can have directions, you can have property directions of these relationships and so on. Okay, my first step here is, okay, I go to the code. 1 second, let me show on the screen. So I will show this. 1 second. Let's see if I can show. Okay, now I can. So you might be able to see my screen, right? So right now I will put in presentation mode so you can see better. So what I'm gonna do next, I will create my classes, then I will put the Jakarta NoSQL annotations, and then I will start playing with graph database. In this case, I will use Neo4j using Cypher. We can use on graph database, we have two ways to communicate. So we can do it with Apache TinkerPop, that is a Apache Foundation project, or the OpenCypher. So in this case, we already had the Gremlin support. Right now, we are working to have support to OpenCypher. So in my sample that I have on my mind, I will have a book, a category, and then create the relationship between book and category. And if I have time, what I can do is create some people who gonna read this book. Okay. So my first step is to create a book. So as usual, I will have an ID and then a title of the book. So I put the getter setters here. I guess for now the getter is more than enough. Then I will define the classics, right, guys? So the equals hash code. So I will define just the ID, and finally the truth string. What we have here is nothing different from JPA, as you can see. So the classes, the attributes, and so on. The next step is just put sorry, putting annotations. So I come here, I define the empty. Well, as you can see, we have this support by IntelliJ. So sorry for that. So I have my entity, and then I need to define the ID and the attribute. So I'll use the ID annotation to define this ID attribute is an ID, and then define the column as a title. So nothing different. The main difference here right now is the package name. So instead of using Jakarta persistence, I'm using Jakarta NoSQL. And then I will create a category. To simplify, I will just copy paste. So instead of book, I put a category, And here I will put name instead of have this. So let's put it together here. So I have the getter, I have the name, I have the name of the category. So right now, what I have two entities, the book and category, where I can operate with this database. So in this case, I will create my book service to create the operation. So if you're familiar with CDI, what I'm doing here is define the application scope, and then I will use a Neo4j extensions, and then I will inject, and that is it. So what I can do right now, I will have the save method. So basically, what's the main goal of the save? Check if that is the information. If that is, I will update. If not, I will insert. So that is the goal. So I will come here. I will check. I will do a template. Select. Outside, can you use Jakarta NoSQL? Yes, you can. But in this case, let's explore more the API of Jakarta NoSQL. So where I have my select, I have the where, my condition, name equals book get name, and then I will do the single result. And that is it. So, and then I will return this found book. So what I can do next, so wait, let me update you title. If the book is there, I will return, right? If not, so I will insert in the database. So found book or else insert in database. So that is it. So I will check the book by the title. If it's not there, I will save on the database. Otherwise, I will return for me. I will gonna do the same to categories. So I will come here. I will do a category thing. I will do the category. I will update here to category as usual. So I will update here to category. Then category get name. And finally, here you be name. So that is it. So I have my book service that will check and save an operation. And right now, let's create the book app. So the one that showed to us how to create those entities. So I have those two entities, I have my service, and finally, I will go to see these things happen, these things working. So public static void man. Why I'm doing that? Because I can do it using CDI, right? So I will start my SE container, my container, and then I will use the SE container initialize, and then I can operate uh, injecting the book service. Okay, the book service. And right now, what I can do, I can create a book. To simplify, I will have just one single attribute. So I will create my factor method here. So public static book of string title and then return. And I'm gonna do the same to category. So public category. So that is it. So what I'm gonna do, I have my container, and then I will start creating my category. So I have my category here. So I create Java category, and so I will save the Java category. I will save, let's put Java here. Let's put NoSQL. Let's save NoSQL. Okay, so I will create this category. First, I will execute where my configuration is. My configuration happened on the micro profile where I have my URI, my username, and my password. Naturally, uh, you can update and overwrite those properties on productions thank you to the 12 factor application. So is that one question? You should use found book in category. That's a good question. Let's find out. Yes, you're right. So let's rename this one here. So I rename to found category. So okay. So I again I have the category, I have the book. So what I'm gonna do, I will just insert those. So I have my Java in action and my effective Java in Java. So the first step, what I'm gonna do is just to save some information. So I come here, I will execute. It naturally is not showing nothing here, but when you go to the the Neo4j, you can start seeing the graph, right? So right now we have two categories, Java and NoSQL, and then two books. So Java in action and effective Java. Okay. So, okay, Otavio, you mentioned that with a graph database, I can go and do a deep relationship between those. Yes, and that is true. So what I'm gonna do next? Uh, in graph, we have the edge and vertex. So right now, what I'm gonna do is to create edge where I can put those relationships. Okay, so I will come here to my ITE again. So let's come here. And then I will create my edge. So my edge will be edge. Let's use my source, that is Java. Then my label. So what I want to do, what I mean. So Java is the target. Um, the target is my entity. So in this case here, what I'm gonna do, I will return those books. So Java in action, and then effective Java. And what I can do, sorry, Java, effective Java is a Java book, right? So right now I have my first edge here where I will save, right? So I had the option to save or on my service. So let's use save on my service where I will come here, I will create this create method save category where I will come here, I'll use my template, and then I will insert my edge. Or what I can do here, that's even better, I can define edge. This way it's gonna check out and then return. So you can check the documentation to see more information about it, but by default it will return an edge. So I come here, I will return this edge, and let update here, and then let update here. So saved, and then put in the screen, saved edge. So what I'm gonna do next, I have a effective Java as a book relationship, and then let's execute. So we can see the edge here. And right now, when we run, as you can see, we start to having relationships. And that's allow us to do even super complex queries using graph database. Okay, so I can navigate through the graph, I can check the properties. So on this case, I have this is here as a label, but if I wish, I can put more properties inside this relationship. For example, uh, let's create another one. So this time using Java in action. And right now I will put some properties. So for example, addition, tree, um, top. So it's a book number one in the Java category. So right now I'm saying that Java in action is a Java book where the properties is third edition. It is on top 10 books of this category. So Java in actions, and then I will save. For now, I will comment the effective Java, and let's execute. So I saved right now with my properties. And when you go to the query again, right now we have two books using the same category, and naturally you can see more properties on this relationship, right? So right now we have not just the ID, but we have the edition, we have the top, so um, on this category, and so on. One good point about those graph database, again, we have two ways to handle it. One using Grimly, another one using OpenCypher. And you can go deep on those queries. So we can navigate, we can communicate, you can do queries and check this information out. Okay. Um, and that is the beauty of graph database. So I'll go quickly because right now I'm just showing a graph database using Neo4j. Right now I'll go to the next step where I'm gonna show you a code already done for me. This time I'm going to OpenCypher where you can see the query result. So again, the sample here, I used a graph database using Cypher with Neo4j. Right now, I will go to my second sample where, 1 second, as you're gonna see, I will use the same logic, but using Janos graph with a, not here, but here, a Grimly database. So here we have a pretty similar approach. So we have my book entity like we have with Neo4j. We have the category like we do have with Neo4j. We have the book service doing precisely the same thing, However, as you can see right now, I'm communicating using TinkerPop. The previous one was Neo4j. So as you can see, in this one here that we have is using TinkerPop. So what's the difference? First, both extends graph template, and graph templates has this structure until the template from Jakarta NoSQL. And if I start to do the same thing with the Neo4j template, it extends again the graph template that belongs to the Eclipse JNoSQL, and I can navigate until the template from a Jakarta NoSQL. So at the end, I'm extending, I can make it extensible to take advantage of particular behavior of NoSQL database. Okay, so I will show quickly here. So I have my book, I have my category, I have my book service to do this kind of logic. But at the end, what you can do that on your way. In this case, you can have your given a template you can operate, and what I can do it. So on this case, I will, for example, find out um, where the category is software, and then return to me the name or the books that are NoSQL database, and then I can categorize using this relationship. Only sample here, I have more categories and books. So I have 5 categories, I have 4 books, and then I starting sorting, and then to finally do the operation. And then you can query for the result. Okay. So naturally graph is a huge universe. So I don't want to go super deep here on what graph database is, and but focus more in the capability of the API itself. The point here is on the sample I'm using Janus with Apache TinkerPop, and as you can see, I'm capable of using both graph API. Okay, so in this sample today, I focus on the capability of graph database, what it can do. So you can have the entity, you can have the edge can have properties, and then finally you can do queries on these categories. That is all that I want to show today. So let me show my slide. 1 second. Um, that is a little bit about me. My name is Otávio Santana, Java champion, JCPHC, and so on. I wrote some books, including one about NoSQL database. Um, right now, we are working on Jakarta NoSQL version 1.1 that will bring more capabilities of a NoSQL database. Right now, you can see what we have on Jakarta NoSQL 1.0. That is basically those annotations. Each are super similar to Jakarta persistence, as you can see. So the entity, the ID, column, super mapper, mapper superclass, embeddable, with some time difference because the structure, and then template that is we use generally as much close as possible from Jakarta persistence. And that is it for today. Hopefully you enjoy. And then, is there any question? So if you want to follow me on Twitter and any social media, my Twitter handle or any social media handle is Otávio Java.
Amazing. What an excellent presentation, Otavio. We really appreciate your contribution. As I've said many times before, we're very, very fortunate to have you share your knowledge and experiences with us. So there is a question from Suli, and I will pop it up here for you. It's you still use found book in category?
Oh, yeah, this one here. I guess you can see my screen, right? It
No,
was a call. No? Okay, let
no,
me.
it's just blank. Yeah.
Okay, let me show the screen again. For some reason, but I already replied that. So basically, it was a copy paste mistake. I already fixed it.
Okay.
So thank you, Sueli.
No, perfect. Awesome. Well, that's it. There's no other questions. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and we look forward to receiving your feedback. I will be putting the link to the webinar feedback survey, so please take the time to answer that. That would be greatly appreciated. Take care, everyone, and have yourselves a wonderful rest of your day.